According to the reports by consulting firms, after a long quiet period, there have been many signs of significant improvement in Vietnam's real estate market. According to Savills Vietnam, in the third quarter of 2014, in Hanoi, the number of apartments sold in the market increased by 58% on a quarterly basis. While in Ho Chi Minh City, according to CBRE, thanks to improved market conditions, selling price of medium and low-end products have started to increase from 1 to 5%. By the end of August 2014, credit growth in real estate market reached 9.85% compared to that of the first two quarters of 2014, higher than the country credit growth by 5.82% and other fields. According to the Department of Foreign Investment, Ministry of Planning and Investment, real estate ranked second in terms of attracting FDI in Vietnam in the first 7 months of 2014, accounting for 11%. With 20 registered projects, the total new and increasing capital has reached $1.13 billion. Foreign investors are pouring capital into real estate market, primarily through merge and acquisitions activities. Hello everyone, and you're watching Sharing Vietnam on VTC 10 Net Việt. On today's program, we are going to have the talk concerning the M&A deals in the real estate market, especially for the last 10 months of 2014. Please join me in welcoming the guest of today's talk show, the General Manager of Cushman and Wakefield Vietnam, Timothy Horton. Thank you so much for joining us one more time. As the General Manager of Cushman and Wakefield Vietnam, what are your comments on the situation and the development of the real estate market of Vietnam for the last 10 months of 2014?
Sure. Well, the market has come back again. We did have a slight downturn. I think just as we were speaking, there had been some political issues that had been ongoing. We saw a little bit of a slowdown, but once again in the last probably 2 or 3 months, heading into the fourth quarter here, we've started to see a bit of movement again in the market. From the retail sphere, we've been very, very active, not just from a local standpoint, but from across the region. We've had visits from our UK head of global transactions for our retail team. We've had our Asia Pacific head over here only 2 or 3 weeks ago. In another 3 weeks' time, we'll have our global head of retail coming to visit us over here in Vietnam, looking at a few different sites and a few different projects where we're looking to work on over the next 2 to 3 years. So there's going to be some big changes, I think, in the retail sphere as new to market brands that make their way into.
In your opinion, which sector has been the highlight of the Vietnamese real estate market for the last 10 months of 2014?
In my opinion, and where I've seen the most amount of strength, continued strength and continued growth, has been the industrial market. You would have read in the news over the last few days, you've got the likes of Samsung, Intel, etc., growing not just in the north but also in the south. But it's also meaning that some of the landlords that we have here, some of the larger industrial park owners, are also expanding, some of them nearly doubling and tripling in size. We're seeing the ready-built factory market, which had been dormant for the last probably 4 years, start to come to life again. We're seeing a lot of that on the back of some real honest hard work being put in by the government to improve the infrastructure, right through from roads, ports, talking about airports, and also the train lines.
According to the statistic done by the Department of Foreign Investment, Ministry of Planning and Investment of Vietnam, the real estate sector ranked second in attracting FDI for the first 7 months of 2014, thanks to a number of M&A deals have been successfully conducted. So what are your comments on that fact?
Attached to a lot of these M&A deals, there's always going to be a real estate component. Whether it's investment in a large manufacturing company, there's always going to be a real estate asset attached to that. Whether it's from oil and gas, there's always going to be a real estate component attached to that. So I think it's being not only dragged along by other industries or other investment classes, but it's also coming into its own as we see a lot of very large investment groups from around the world investing back into Vietnamese developers and the Vietnamese real estate market. Exactly. There's a few that I can't name just yet, but we're seeing some big joint ventures between some big Russian groups as well at the moment up through the central part of Vietnam. Some of the transactions that we'd mentioned about in our previous sit down in Ho Chi Minh City, the residential Nova Land and their Lexington acquisition. We're starting to see movement in a lot of that residential real estate once again. There's a lot more off-market transactions between local buyers and local sellers, and that's what's really been pushing a lot of that investment along.
2014 is considered the year of M&A in the retail sector as a series of major deals took place. In August, Metro transferred 19 retail centers in Vietnam to Burley Drucker Corporation's BJC of Thailand, with a transferring value of up to $869 million. Before that, in the middle of 2013, BJC bought Family Mart retail chain from the Japanese investor. In October, Vingroup announced the successful acquisition of Ocean Retail and Real Estate Management Company Ocean Retail, turning Ocean Mart into Vinmart. From mid-November, the brand AN City Mart will be launched, marking a major investment of Japanese AN Group. Since the 15th of November 2014, 26 supermarkets and convenience stores will be renamed AN City Mart instead of City Mart. According to the real estate experts, the increase in M&A activities is an inevitable trend as the real estate market has become increasingly fierce and retail has become such an attractive field to invest in Vietnam. One of the reasons making the market so vibrant in recent years is that Vietnam's retail market will be completely open by January 2015 under the WTO rules. In addition, under the Agreement on Trade in Goods of ASEAN, Vietnam has reduced tariffs for imports from ASEAN nations to 0% for 10,000 taxable goods. Now we'd like to talk more specifically in terms of retail sphere. The Vietnamese market, with the appearance of foreign companies such as Lotte, has become more competitive. What are your comments on that? And also, do you think that Vietnamese company should be aware of their new competitors?
You know, the names that you mentioned are very specific and are targeted at a very, more the medium to low end sector of the market. And I think from a retail perspective, that's where the price point of most Vietnamese people are. And we're seeing a lot of growth in that end of the market. Generally, the best guide for the success of a shopping mall isn't the number of people walking around inside, it's the number of bags that are being carried. Otherwise, it ends up just being a free air conditioning on the weekend. So we're starting to see an increase in a lot of those locations and a lot of those brands with some of the local buyers. It's all about positioning the shopping mall, and that's one thing that we at Cushman Wakefield work very closely with the developers at the very early stages of development. Sometimes the positioning and the marketing is thought about at the very last step of the process. But design, positioning, tenant mix all play a very large and very important role in the successful failure of a project. By going in and filling a particular project with all luxury items, luxury cosmetics, watches, sunglasses. Sometimes in a particular location isn't going to hit the right demographic of people living in that location. So it's very important to ensure that a lot of your lead-up work through the consultancy is done in the early stages. A little bit of money paid up front can either save you a lot of money or can make you a lot of money in the long term.
What are your comments on the fact that for the last 10 months of 2014, both Metro and Ocean Mart have changed their owner?
Look, that deal is, for Ocean Mart, it's quite an aggressive move, but they can obviously see and have a strong belief in that segment of the market. I think given the position, they're probably in a relatively good spot.
During the periods of 2012 and 2013, there was an oversupply of retail space. In 2014, the supply of retail space continues to rise, but the liquidity of the market has become better thanks to some of the M&A deals that successfully made. Will this be the trends for upcoming months of 2014 and also in 2015?
Yeah, look, we just had a good conference call with our regional team yesterday afternoon, actually discussing the potential for Vietnam through the back end of 2014 and into 2015. The issue hasn't been that there isn't enough capital. The issue has always been of what the capital can be injected into. And we'll get to a point now where I feel that there will be a lot of pressure on these funds and on these investors to finally invest this money into the real estate market in Vietnam. So I think as long as there's a willingness from the landlord, there is a level of realism from the joint venture, then we'll start to see an increase in these transactions through the back end of 2014, but most likely I would say into the first half of 2015.
Once again, thank you so much for spending time with us in sharing Vietnam.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's all we have for today's talk show. Thank you so much for watching the talk with Timothy Horton, the General Manager of Cushman in Wakefield, Vietnam. We hope that this talk has brought you some useful information concerning the real estate market of Vietnam in the last 10 months of 2014. Thank you for watching and see you next time.